If you procrastinate, you've probably told yourself that you're either lazy or undisciplined. But what if procrastination is a message? In this video, I want to share with you the 5 reasons why I've seen most people procrastinate, along with what you can do to overcome each, so you can finally start moving forward. The very first one I want to share is actually a fear of failure. Now, when most people hear that, even myself, knowing where this is going, straight away I think of letting myself down. It's being afraid to invest some time, energy, or more importantly, money into something that's new for us, with a fear that actually, what if it doesn't work out and we just end up right back where we started? Of course, that sucks, that will always suck, and we really want to do everything we can to avoid that. But more often than not, that doesn't actually hold anybody up. Instead, it's the fear of what other people think. Some of the thoughts that go through a lot of people's heads is, what will other people think when I'm sharing the efforts and energies that I'm putting into this, only for the results to be so much lower than what we've seen out there in the real world? And I don't mean to downplay that. That is a really sticky thing to try and overcome, especially if when you're sharing this stuff, it's going to be on the likes of LinkedIn, where ex-colleagues and people who you're not overly friendly with, but definitely know who you are, what they're going to think of you. Or maybe for some people, it's what a potential future employer might see, and will that hamper your chances of getting your dream job in the future? These are very real things to be afraid of, and I can see how they hold people up. But thankfully, there's actually a really simple solution, and that's just to redefine what success looks like. If you can break your venture down into really tiny steps that will ultimately lead you to where you want to go, oftentimes we can nail those, and so sharing that success allows us to feel a little bit more confident in ourselves that other people aren't going to be thinking negatively of us. So for us to overcome this fear of failure, the first thing that we need to do is break down success into smaller steps, knowing that even if we do share those out into the world, that might not be generating the initial feelings that we're hoping that this will actually have in the future, but it's allowing us to build up that level of trust with the people who are following us. And oftentimes that's just enough to get over that hurdle. The second way people procrastinate that I want to talk about is actually perfectionism. It's when you're sitting down to write something and you've got that blinking cursor flashing at you, or you want to record a video and the red light is on but you don't know what to say. You want to make sure that what you say is good, and so you get in your own head about, oh, will I say this, or will I say that, or no, I want to tweak this, or no, I want to tweak that. It's natural and normal, especially when we look at the first reason I talked about for people procrastinate, to want to get something right. You don't want to waste that time or energy doing something wrong, and you want to make sure that it provides value for whatever it is that you're trying to do. And so it's really common that this trips a lot of people up. But how I overcome this is actually by a phrase that I learned from Seth Godin, and that is, just create a shitty first draft. That gives you the permission when you're looking at that blinking cursor to know that what you're going to put out first isn't going to be final. And all it's going to do is to act as a framework for where you want to tweak and adjust and to give you something to mess with. If you want to take this to its absolute ultimate, what I found works really well is to take out my phone, open the notes app and start dictation. Then all I'll do is just talk through what it is I want to communicate in a very rough and ready format. When I'm done, I stop dictation, throw it into ChatGPT and just ask it to summarize it into a first draft for me. Will it be a final version that comes out? No, of course not. But it gets me about 80% of the way there, and after about 10 minutes of tweaking and adjusting, either that's directly in ChatGPT with some new prompts, or by removing it from that platform and tidying it up myself, more often than not, I get to that final draft that's good enough so much quicker than I ever did before. And it feels so much more productive than just looking at that blinking cursor for 10, 20, or even 30 minutes. Number 3 is actually emotional avoidance. It's those things that we've been putting off for maybe years that we just can't get to because we're so ashamed or off-put by the fact that it's taken us so long to do it. For me, this used to materialize if I was ever going through a breakup. There's always those painful things that we need to do when a relationship breaks down, like deleting some old text messages or making sure that the photos that we have around the house are put away, and maybe some of the things that they've left behind that we eventually get back to this other person. And while each of the emotions that we feel are going to be different based on who we are and the situation that's in front of us, Thankfully, there is a universal way that we can all overcome this, or at least make it a little bit easier. And that's just to name the emotions that we're feeling. For me, as I said, this usually cropped up at the end of a relationship. So the emotions that I would usually fear would be anxiousness that I might not find anybody new, and a fear that I would be alone. And so by just sitting down and digging into those, usually by the time I was finished, the fears I had all fell away, and I no longer wanted to procrastinate this. It just felt like the right thing to do. So if there's something that you're avoiding because it's emotionally heavy, just take that time to sit down and just ask yourself what emotions you're feeling. And I guarantee that you'll feel at least a little bit more close to doing what you need to do. Sometimes we end up procrastinating things because it's going to turn us into a different person. Case in point, when I relocated to Canada, a real fear that I had was knowing that I was going into the unknown in terms of who I was going to be. Before I moved, I was in my engineering career and I knew what my days and weeks looked like. I knew I was good at my job and I knew what I was doing. And so going into this, I didn't know what my day was going to look like. I didn't know what the lifestyle was going to be. And I was also making a career change, and so I didn't know if I was going to have the skills to do what I needed to do. And that can be terrifying. And so this fear of becoming a new person can definitely hold people back. One question that can help us overcome this is asking ourselves if doing this thing will help turn us into the person we want to be. If I go back to my example for a second, one of the reasons I was moving to Canada was to make a career change into the strength and fitness industry. Now, at the time, I didn't know if this was something I wanted to do forever. But I knew that by going over there and giving it a go, I was definitely building myself more into this person I wanted to be. I wanted to increase my resilience, learn more about starting my own business, and definitely wanted to learn how to be a better coach. And so I knew that even if I went over there and this turned out to not be for me, which is ultimately what happened, I would definitely come back to Ireland being closer to the person I wanted to be, even if I ended up going back into engineering. And so by reframing this fear in this way, it just allowed me to take those small first steps into becoming the person I wanted to be. The last and most common way I see people procrastinating is with something that just feels heavy. It's been sitting on the periphery of their lives for weeks or months or maybe even years, but they just can't find that motivation or startup energy to just go and get it done. When that's the case, I always ask if it's something that they should actually be doing at all. These type of actions fit into what I call things that we should be doing. A lot of time it's either societal pressures or family reasons that we feel like it's just something that we have to do, it's our job and we just need to get it done. But when you actually dig into whether it's important to them or not, a lot of times it works out that it's not. And the wheel of life is a super powerful tool to actually figure out if this is the case or not. All the wheel of life is a graphical representation of 8 areas of your life and the level of satisfaction that you have in each of them. And how this can sometimes become a problem is that if we've got this one goal that takes a bit of dedication and time and focus for a period of time to get across the line. And let's say that's weight loss. So you want to lose some weight, so you're really focused on your diet and your exercise, but the downside is that takes time. You're going to the gym a few times a week, which takes an hour and a half, and every day you're cooking healthy meals, which really just removes your ability to focus on other areas of your life, like your relationships or your hobbies. And so quickly, if we do that for too long, yes, the satisfaction we get from the success we're having in our health and fitness goes up, but the level of satisfaction we get from the other areas, like our career or our hobbies, just starts to dwindle. And all of a sudden, going and tackling this thing just feels so heavy. And so by going through the Wheel of Life exercise, it allows you to paint this picture of where you're finding levels of success, which is good, but maybe where it's causing you to take away from other areas. And it just allows you to reassess where you should be focused and where you'll actually get that level of drive and energy from. And if this feels like something that might be useful, I've actually dropped a link down in the description below where you can get my free Wheel of Life template, which talks through exactly how to do it and gives you a template to fill into. So if you think that would be useful, get that down in the description down below. Just before I finish up, I do want to say that procrastination obviously impacts everybody, and it's not something that we can avoid forever. But by having these tools and these systems to overcome it when it happens, we can make sure that when we're stuck and we feel like we want to go, but we just don't know how, we have the toolkit to be able to move forward. If you found this useful, make sure you click that subscribe button. But that's this week's video. I hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you in the next one. Peace.